Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fans View Podcast. Today's episode is going to be very exciting. This is a lady I've been trying to track down since this podcast's inception. You may know her from her time in NXT as Mila Moore. Maybe you've had the chance to see her working in various promotions across the country, in the Midwest and Florida. She's really starting to make a name for herself, and I think you're going to know her name very, very soon. Today's guest, of course, is the wonderful Mila Moore. Mila, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I've got you on my podcast. I mean, it doesn't get much better.
Let's do it.
We're just going to jump into this because I know you're a busy woman. So I'm very interested to know when you first kind of fell in love with professional wrestling.
Yeah, I have a weird story. Growing up, my dad had two godsons, a year older and younger than me. So I got grouped into doing all the guy activities, and one of them was really into wrestling growing up. So every year we'd go see a show, and I really got into it. I enjoyed it then, but I wasn't like a diehard fan probably until I was in college, maybe around like 2015. And that's when they had the whole women's evolution, and that was kind of pushed more into the media. So then I really got into it, and that's like, I was like, I want to do that. So then I started to take jiu-jitsu classes. I went to school near like Jacksonville, Florida. And then once I graduated, I moved to Orlando to just train.
So I'm going to assume you came into wrestling at that point in time. Were you a fan of like the horsewomen, Sasha and Charlotte and Bayley?
Yeah,
Who are some of your favorites, when you first
I
started
love Charlotte Flair. She's probably my favorite.
Okay.
I think it was during her storyline with Rhea that like really sparked it for me. I think that was just like two amazing women. That was probably the best woman storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to model yourself after a professional wrestler, Charlotte Flair is a pretty safe bet.
Absolutely.
When did wrestling become something that you enjoyed, from a fan perspective, to something that you wanted to do professionally, that you wanted to chase?
It was probably in college, which was funny because growing up, I wasn't like a very outgoing person. So it was very different for me. I was very shy and I kind of just put myself out there. I drove down to Orlando from St. Augustine. So it's like a couple hours. Like once a week, I would drive down for like just a lesson here and there. And then once I graduated college is when I was like, okay, I either need to do it or not do it. But then I just was like, oh, I'll move there and just train. And I did, and it worked out great.
So where did you end up? I know, and we've spoken before, I know that your cage match page kind of gets a little wonky.
Yeah.
Where did you actually train, to become a professional wrestler?
I started at Devon Dudley's school.
Okay. All right. So not Sarah Del Rey, guys. I've made that mistake in the past.
That's funny.
What was it about Devon's school, or Devon in particular? Obviously being in Central Florida, you throw a rock, you can hit 20 wrestling schools.
Yeah.
What was it about? Is it the Team 3D Academy at
Yeah.
that time? What was it about Team 3D that really stuck out to you that made you go to that particular school?
He was in Kissimmee for a while, which is probably like 40 minutes from actual Orlando. And then he moved into Winter Park when I moved near Winter Park. So it just kind of worked out. And at the time, there really wasn't that many. This is like 2021. So there wasn't like that many super well-known schools as there is now. But then when he moved closer, that's when I was like, oh, this is a sign. Right when I move here, I should go. So
Right.
it was
That's
great.
pretty cool. So I've heard you say before you never really felt confident during your initial NXT run. Obviously, you were there as Mila Moore. Can you talk a little bit about, how that opportunity came about and maybe why you never felt comfortable?
Yeah. So it's funny because I still don't really know how that opportunity happened, like actually, but I have a theory, and this is so weird. So on TikTok, they had a thing that everyone got sent, and it was kind of like upload your TikTok URL for like a chance to have a WWE tryout. I'm like, there's no way. So I uploaded it, and I'm nothing on TikTok. So it was funny. It was like during COVID though, where everyone's posting like dance videos. And so I did it, and probably like a week later, I got an email for a tryout. And I called Devon, and he was at Raw at the time. And I'm like, is this, I screenshotted it. I called him. I said, look at your phone. Is this a scam? And he looks, he goes, I don't know. Let me call you. Like, he didn't even know. And then he called me back like an hour later with Laurinaitis, and he goes, it's real, it's real. I'm like, what? So I don't even know if that's true, that it's from that TikTok, but really funny if it is.
That is crazy. Obviously, you weren't in NXT very long, but do you have any fun stories or memories of your time in NXT, or anybody that you enjoyed working with or being around during that time in your career?
Yeah, there was a good group of people at the time. I'm still really close with, who was Quincy Elliott. Miguel, he's a super diva. He's probably one of my best friends from that time still. But it was always a good group of people.
Okay. So obviously you were eventually released from NXT, and it feels like you weren't even used that often. It was really unfortunate, obviously. Was that something, some people talk about when they get cut? I saw it coming from a mile away. It was just a matter of time. And then some people are completely taken aback by it. What was your experience like? Was it something that you were kind of like, yeah, okay, that makes sense? Or was it completely out of the blue?
It was kind of a mixture of both. I was only there for about like 7 months. So I thought that it was way too soon to like be cut.
Yeah.
So it was definitely out of the blue, but looking back on it, I had no confidence when I was there. And I think that comes from just the time it was. I was in the first athlete tryout, which I'm not an athlete, but I also was only in the indies. I think I did one show before I got signed. So I wasn't even like technically, like I felt like I wasn't in the indies, but I wasn't athlete. So I didn't know where I really was. And then I didn't want to feel too confident because there's so many people here and aren't here that have worked way harder than I have. So I didn't want to I have too much of an ego, but then you can't not have an ego. So I was always like kind of back and forth with, I had no idea of really what, I think I was just there way too soon. And I always say it was like a blessing in disguise that I got released, because it just, yeah. I feel like if I was still there, I would not have worked as hard as I have now for wrestling. And I appreciate it way more.
Right. Yeah, and that leads me as a perfect segue into my next question is, what was that like emotionally for you? Was it almost a relief? Like you say, you were struggling so hard with your confidence and everything else. Was that almost a relief at that moment? Or is that something you look back now and say, like, that was a good thing for me?
It definitely was a good thing for me. I wouldn't say a relief, but I do think that I wouldn't have more confidence, or I wouldn't have learned as much as I have now, or met people that I have now. So looking back on it, I'd never say, oh, it was a good thing, but it kind of, yeah. I don't know. I did grow a lot from it, which I don't think I would have if I wasn't released. So right. I think the whole time I was there, I would always tell myself, I didn't work as hard as these other people that, are here and aren't even here. And so I think that was just kind of like a weird way of life to be like, oh, okay, well, here you go, work hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to earn it, go earn it.
Yeah, you definitely were put in a very unique situation.
Yeah.
Sure. And that kind of brings us to your indie run. Since leaving WWE, you've been very active. Like you haven't sat on your hands. I first found you through the ridiculous little skits and stuff that you were doing with Cam. Can you talk a little bit about Only Cams and that relationship as a whole?
Yes, I love it. It started as an accident because he's been doing Only Cams for a while, and I was in a weird situation after NXT where I didn't really have a character. I was kind of like, I didn't really know what I was doing in wrestling. So I was kind of stuck, and he bought these bunny masks and he called me one day and he's like, can you be in a promo for me? You'll be in the background. No one will see you. I was like, okay, sure. And I went, and I was like, dead center in the middle. Definitely everyone can see me. And like, I wasn't hidden at all. And I was kind of like very upset about it, but like it was a new friendship with Cam. So I was like, okay, like whatever. And he posted it. And I remember being like mortified. I'm like, don't tag me in this. Like, I don't want people knowing it's me. And then obviously everyone knew it was me. And a promoter for CCW actually texted me the next day and was like, I love that. Can we do like you managing Cam, and like so that kind of happened for a while, and it helped me a lot because Cam was like, well, you don't know what you're doing really in wrestling. You can kind of manage me and gain that confidence and have fun doing it, and then that'll help you grow. And it did. I don't know what I would be doing right now if I'd never started that, because just messing around with Cam and doing those promos and just all that ridiculous stuff. At the time, I'm like, this is dumb, but it helped me so much.
Where do you think, and this wasn't even on my outline, but you just mentioned like you didn't know what you were doing in wrestling at one point. Was there a time between maybe your NXT release and Only Cams where maybe you even thought about leaving the business? Or were you always dead set on, no, this is gonna work, I just have to put the work in, that kind of thing?
I was always dead set on this has to work, kind of. My mom called me when I got released, and she was like, well, you did it. You did your dream. Like, great. Like, it's over now. And I was like, I wasn't even on TV. Like, I didn't know. This isn't over. And that was just my mindset all the way through. And still now, like, no, this has to work. Not like if it will, it has to.
I love that. That is the outlook you need for sure. So, where would you say you are confidence wise now? And where are you training? Because I know you're constantly training, you're constantly working on your craft. Where are you now? Both physically, where are you training? And then where are you like mentally, like with your confidence? Like, where are you?
I can say now is probably the most confident I've ever felt. Since September, I've been training at A Steel School in Orlando, Florida. And oh my gosh, he's helped me more than anyone, just in confidence and everything in wrestling, really. So much support. And yeah, this is probably the best I felt since going there.
That's awesome. So obviously, you like I've said something about it already. You've become quite the road warrior. Like you're all over the place. The past few years, since you released and stuff, do you have, and obviously this is such a tough question because if you don't mention someplace they're going to feel slighted, but do you have maybe a favorite promotion or a favorite city or a couple places that you just really enjoy working?
Yeah, right now I really enjoy working at IWC in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just always an amazing crowd, amazing people in the locker room, great footage. I've been doing that a lot in IWR in Detroit. That's Rhino's promotion, and that's just the same thing. Everyone's just been amazing. Those are probably my two like top favorites right now.
Okay. And in that same vein, do you have like some people, some competitors that you really enjoy? Like, when you step in the ring with them, it's going to be a good night?
Yeah, recently I just worked Izzy Moreno. I train with her, and I'm hoping to have a lot more matches with her. Because, yeah, that's probably the first time I've been in a ring with someone just felt totally confident with them. And, we both know how each other move, and it's
Yeah. With the Fans View is a very pro Izzy Moreno podcast. She's been on the show, and I was honestly one of the fans back in 2014.
yeah.
And she was having her super fan run, so I got to meet Izzy and know Izzy as a little girl. To see what she's doing now, it's wonderful.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have more matches soon.
I would love to see it. Obviously, we've got to touch on it because if I don't, they're gonna be like, "Why didn't you bring them up?" How much of a I'm trying to think of the right word here, a resource is it? Obviously, you're in a relationship with Wardlow.
Mhm.
How much of a resource is he as far as wrestling goes? Like, can you bounce things off of him? Obviously, he's young in the business too, for what it's worth.
Mhm.
But he has been on TV. He's been in major promotions. Is he kind of a resource that you can use with your wrestling career, or do you
Oh,
try to
absolutely.
separate church and state a little bit there?
So kind of both. I feel like in my mind, I try to keep it separated as much as possible, but that's just impossible. Especially when like I'm at a point right now where I'm actively trying like so hard. I'm training almost every day. I'm doing shows every weekend. So it's hard to like not talk about that.
Yeah.
He's like the one person I do bounce ideas off of or get advice from. And yeah, especially like you said, like TV wise, he just has so much experience with that, and even just people in wrestling he has experience with. So
Right.
I bounce a lot of ideas off him. And also if he sees something I do in a match, or he's never one to be like that was awful, but he'll say, hey, maybe you should do this next time, or this would be really good for you. So yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. We're blowing up the bad guy Wardlow character right now.
Oh no, he's the worst. I mean,
You've said before, because again we've spoken before, and you've
Mm-hmm.
said that dating in the public eye really hasn't become an issue yet, or hopefully at all. But maybe wrestling fans being wrestling fans. Oh, she's only in that spot because
Yeah.
whatever. She's How frustrating is that, and how have you learned to deal with trolls and just the negativity in general, not just when it comes to your relationship, but just in general?
Right when we started dating, actually, for Christmas last year, I went to London. My sister lives in London, and I'll never forget. It was like right when we started posting each other, I think, and I posted a picture by myself in London, and someone commented like, "You've been dating a few months, and he's already taking you to Europe." It's like, what? What? I've had that for a year now. Like, so yeah, people are gonna, say things. I feel like I'm not really in a position yet where people could even be saying, "Oh, you did this because of him." But I'm
Yeah.
sure if that ever did happen, I'm sure if the day comes where I get signed somewhere, or go somewhere, or do a big show, that will happen, and I know that. But I'm such a carefree person. Like, people can say the worst things to me, and I don't. It doesn't matter to me as long as the people in my life aren't saying that. Then I don't have an issue with it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times, I feel like fans, if I do get in a bigger promotion and fans start saying that, that can become a story, So
There you go. There you go. And I'm so glad you said that. You are the segue queen. Has working with him ever crossed? Obviously, it's crossed your mind. Is that something that you would enjoy doing, or is that something where you're really kind of like, maybe let's don't do that?
like it's something I would want to do at least once, and I would enjoy doing it, but for a short amount of time. It wouldn't be like, oh, I'll work with you. Just I feel like that's just too. It gets too much. It's too
Yeah.
involved. And we're
Yeah.
both people that like. I don't know. I think that would be too frustrating for us both.
Well, I'd like to see it at least once. So
Yeah, me too.
hopefully we get it somewhere. So right here on the Fans View podcast, I'd love to do this fun segment called the Fans Eye View, where I'm going to show you a couple pictures. I think we have 3 for you today, and you just kind of riff and just give me the story behind it.
Cool.
So if you're game, we're going to get that going right now. First one up. Who is that young lady?
I don't know what that is. That was like my first few months in NXT. I was there for like a few months because we were waiting on taking those pictures.
Right. Were you a part of that new branding of NXT 2.0 and all of that?
I think I started right after that happened. I was probably the first class after that.
Yeah, you guys were put in a position where you just couldn't win with that situation. But moving on to happier things, even though your face in this picture doesn't really purvey happy.
Well, that's always my face when I'm with Cam. That was my first that was my first gear I had made. So yeah, that was my first gear. And then when I went to NXT, I just had them add my name to the back of it. But I love that gear. But Cam, he's such an
Where
idiot.
is that picture? Do you know where that is?
Just like a practice match somewhere, like for fun.
Well, he's enjoying himself. You're
Yeah,
not so much.
always too much. It's too much.
And then finally, we have to get him on here. We talked about him a little bit, but the War Dog himself. Where was this photo from?
This is at IWC in Pittsburgh. This was maybe a match after or maybe it was. I think this was like the match I won the belt there. Okay. So that was and that's actually his home like promotion too. So it was and that's my first belt, and he got his first belt there too. So it was very exciting.
And how long ago was this?
Maybe during the summer.
Okay. All right. I ask because we spoke off camera, but I have to give it some love online. When I was looking for this photo, there's actually a Reddit dedicated, and I let you in on this. There's a Reddit dedicated to Wardlow's ponytail.
I need it. I need the link.
I'm definitely gonna say. So, can you now confirm right here on the Fans View podcast that Wardlow's ponytail has in fact returned?
It's back. It's back in full effect.
Why did he shave it off to start with?
I don't know. I liked it. I think I'm the only one who liked his hair without the ponytail. Then it started getting a little longer and longer, and he would get haircuts every week to like not have it. And then I don't know what happened. He was like, no, I need to come back. It's
Well,
like a
Reddit.
superpower or
Oh
something.
yeah, I'm telling you, you've got like Triple H's sledgehammer, you got the Vince Power Walk, you have Wardlow's ponytail.
Exactly. That's how he thinks.
Oh my god. Well, Reddit approves, so I mean, it's not just him. I'm glad you didn't tell us that you were the reason he buzzed it off, or you would have
No.
just became the biggest heel in professional
Oh
wrestling.
yeah, I don't need that responsibility.
So obviously, again, this is the Fans View podcast. So I love to get to know the guests and stuff beyond just their in-ring, abilities and stuff like that. What are you a fan of when you're not in the ring? When you're not training, which obviously doesn't sound like there's a lot of room anymore when you're
No.
not training or in the ring. But when you do get a little free time, what do you enjoy doing?
Well, I'm a very outdoorsy person, so I always go for a walk every morning to start the day outside. I am into musical theater too. We talked about this in the other podcast, but I am very into musical theater. So when I'm stressed out or something, I have a playlist on YouTube of like bootleg people like recording it on Broadway, and I'll just watch that, and it makes me happy. And I love Disney. I'm a big Disney girl.
Well, the Florida in you, we can't run
Yeah,
from that.
it has to happen. It's funny though, because I used to go to Disney way more when I didn't live in Orlando. Now that I live in Orlando, I never go to Disney.
See, and I hate to bring it back to him, but we need more Wardlow and Mickey Ears content.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I would love that.
We need you to work on that, Mila. Come on, come through for us.
I would love that.
Yes, Wardlow and Mickey Ears. That is the wholesome content we need. What does 2025 look like for Mila Moore? Do you have any tangible goals this year? Some short-term goals that you'd like to accomplish this year?
Yeah. One of my goals was I wanted to wrestle at TNA, which I am this week in Orlando. So that hopefully I do that more with them this year. That's probably the biggest goal of mine. And just to be busy wrestling. I started the year off good. I have been very busy, and I just hope I feel like a lot of times in wrestling, you get those busy bursts, and then there's some months where you have like, okay, you take a break, and I don't want that. So that's my goal.
Gas. I like it. And to kind of piggyback on that, and I think I might have asked you before, but I want my viewers to hear it from you too. At this point of your life and in your career, obviously you're in a very serious relationship. You're working on your craft now more than ever. What does success mean to you?
Yeah, I feel like success is different for everyone. For me, it's just one, achieving the initial goal that I started. The initial goal I started, if I achieve that, that's amazing, awesome. But also, I think now it's to leave the lasting impact on wrestling as a whole, especially in women's wrestling. Like in 20 or 30 years, I want to have changed, the environment or the lay of it somehow that people don't forget.
I love that. And that's such a great answer. And then it's WrestleMania season. So I'm loving asking everybody this. I think I know what you're going to say, but do you have a favorite WrestleMania match? From any WrestleMania whatsoever?
I actually don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. I'm a big Rhea girl, so I would say the Rhea match during like COVID.
Yeah, okay.
That's just insane. But yeah, that's a good question. That's probably what I'll go with right now.
Yeah, I figured you might go with Rhea and Charlotte. Well, this has been fantastic. I'm so glad that we could put this together.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell people where they can get a hold of you on social media? Thank you for Wardlow's ponytail and everything else.
Yeah, it's Mila Moore on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter.
And where can promoters get a hold of you? Is your email the best way to?
Yes, my email is on my Instagram, and it should be on my Twitter.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's all I got for you today, Mila. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
This has been so much fun. Got to talk a little ponytail, a little wrestling.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can have you on again in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. Guys, make sure you go support Mila. Support the podcast. Support us on YouTube. It's free. It costs you nothing. But until next time, guys, don't forget, call your mom.
If you haven't liked or subscribed, you're going to be joking me.